travelers. It's Mrs. V again, and I'm here to chat with you about your geography challenge that you will be completing over this next week. So here is your geography packet that you received in your pickup materials from Friday. This is where we're going to start social studies this year. So when you open your packet, the very first thing you see is this, geography challenge questions for key parts of world map. So you can see at the top that it has A. That's because this is Geography Challenge A. So this is the one that you're going to complete today, Monday. So these are our questions, and then you're going to need the map that's right behind it that's going to give you the ability to answer the questions. So I wanted to just chat really quick about the map because you did some reading before you watched this video. And one of the things that I talked about is how the equator splits the world or the globe up into two halves. So I wanted to label those for you. This is the northern hemisphere, and this is the southern hemisphere. So the equator splits the earth or the globe into a northern half and a southern half. Okay? So that's kind of the first important line on the globe. And then you have another line that goes the opposite direction. So this is running east to west or horizontally. You also have this one right here that runs north to south, and that splits the earth into the eastern and western hemispheres. So we have the equator that runs east to west at 0 degrees, and that splits the earth into the northern and the southern hemisphere. You have the prime meridian at 0 degrees, and this splits the earth into the western hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. So those are a couple really important things that I want you to make sure that you know at this point. So you are going to go ahead and take a look at this, and number 1 says label the largest continent. Number 2, label the smallest continent. And then it goes down to some different things about the continents and the oceans. So I'm going to do number 1 for you, so you're welcome. Number 1 says label the largest continent. So on my map, I've got to find the largest continent. So through my reading and just kind of looking, I know that this right here is the continent of Asia. And I know that Asia is the longest or the largest continent. So because this is number 1, I'm going to put a number 1 right here. I'm going to circle it, and I'm going to write Asia, because that's the name of the continent. That's the answer to number 1. You're going to do that for all of them. So whatever the smallest continent is, I'm going to write, let's say it was Africa. It's not Africa. I would write a number 2, circle it, and write the name Africa. If the smallest continent was South America, I would write a number 2 with a circle and write South America. Okay? So these first questions are talking about the continent and about the oceans. Okay? Number 3 is a little tricky because it's asking you which hemispheres the United States is located. So there's going to be more than one hemisphere. So the United States is right here. So within its borders, you would put, this is the answer to number 3, and you're going to write what hemisphere it is. Is it in the northern hemisphere above the equator, or is it in the southern hemisphere below the equator? So that's one of your answers. You would write northern or southern. It's also in either the western hemisphere or the eastern hemisphere. So if it's over here on this side, it's going to be western, just like we wrote down here. If it's on this side where Asia is, this is eastern. So if I'm just using Asia as an example, Asia, because the whole continent is right here on this side, Asia is in the northern hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. That's where I would find the continent of Asia, because it's on this side of the prime meridian, and it is above the equator. So Asia is in the northern hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. Down here, the continent of Antarctica, it's a kind of a cool one because Antarctica falls into the eastern hemisphere because it's right here. It also falls into the western hemisphere because it's over here, and it's in the southern hemisphere because it's below the equator. So if I was going to label what hemisphere Antarctica is in, I would label southern, eastern, and western. Okay? So some of them, if you're labeling what hemispheres, it could be more than one. It should be at least two, but it could be more than that. So for number 3, you're looking at what hemispheres is the United States? West or east, north or southern. Okay? So you're going to go through, and when you're finished, you should have number 1 through 10 answered on your map. Okay? So number 1 is done for you. I've started you off on number 3. The rest you are going to try to do on your own. Okay? Good luck. This is your first geography challenge, and I will talk to you soon.